Hi, I'm Hallie, and today I'm going to talk to you about targeting the right companies for your internship. Most people are planning to do an internship because they want to go into a similar job after graduation. The internship is a great place to test whether you'd like the day to day work, get to know a company that you might want to work for after graduation, and gain experience in the role, industry, or geography that you're targeting. So, which companies should you be targeting? Your internship experience should be as similar as possible to the full time role that you think you'd like to pursue after graduation. If you don't know what that looks like yet, just go back to the presentation on building your internship strategy and take a look at the accompanying worksheet to identify your strategy summary. We get a lot of questions about this. Why don't we cover a few of the most commonly asked ones? First, what if I want to do my internship in a fun location, just to try it out? While it's tempting, we really don't recommend doing this unless an organization explicitly uses a rotation system. That means that they typically swap employees between offices. Otherwise, it's best to aim for internship conditions that are most like those that you would be targeting in a full time role, and that includes location. Question number two: what happens if I don't like my internship? That's fine. The purpose of your internship is to get as close as possible to a potential full time role. That way, you can test whether or not you'd actually be happy there. If you learn new things during your internship that lead you to believe you wouldn't, and you need to pivot once you move into the full time job search, just do. You'll have valuable new experience that will help you target the right organization. And question number three: what about interning at a brand name company just so that I can broaden my options for the full time search? I just want that brand name on my CV. The problem here is that a full time recruiter often doesn't value an internship experience at the same level that they would for a full time role, let's say 2 or 3 years at a blue chip organization. Instead, they'll give this a similar weighting to the extracurricular activities on your master's. Something interesting that has helped you gain knowledge about the field, but not deep experience that will help you gain the role that you're targeting. This all means that you'll want to target companies for the internship that would be able to hire you after graduation. So let's break that down a little further. These should be companies that are looking for additional full time headcount in the team that you're interested in, or they could anticipate doing so in the coming year. They'll be able to pay you a salary that sustains you in the location where you'll be based without provoking financial stress. And finally, if you need a work visa, they should be able to sponsor it. If you follow these guidelines, the worst that can happen is that a full time role doesn't result from the specific company that you've targeted. You'll still get quite a bit out of the experience. You'll get experience in your industry, role, and location. You'll get awesome experience to add to your CV. You'll likely get a reference for your full time search. And you'll have clearer knowledge about exactly what you're looking for as you pursue a full time job. Let's pause for a few minutes and talk about the smaller pool of applicants for many of these roles. The most common mistake that international students and alumni make during their job search is to target companies that can't hire them. It causes them to lose time on applications that wouldn't have been successful, and can also be discouraging. Most often, recruiters will never tell you directly that they don't hire internationals. That means that there's a smaller pool of jobs available to international alumni compared with their domestic peers. That's unfortunate, but these are the facts. It also means that that smaller pool will likely be more competitive because most international students are looking at similar roles alongside their domestic peers who are interested in the same thing. You've got to stand out against the competition. So for more on how to do that, head over to our positioning guide. So how do you go about finding these companies? This is most common for students who will need a work visa in order to continue living and working in the target location, but it's also applicable to you even if you already have work authorization. Common pitfalls of creating a target list of organizations include looking at companies that are unable or unwilling to sponsor a work visa. Remember that just because companies can sponsor doesn't necessarily mean that they will sponsor. Have a look at our guide to work visas for more information. You could also be looking at companies that require local language skills. If you don't speak the local language fluently, this can be a big challenge. Some countries, like France, for example, have more rigid requirements when it comes to local language skills. Other countries, like Denmark, as an example, can be a little bit more flexible. And the last thing is to make sure and have a look at culture fit. Students who don't take this seriously are often unsuccessful. If a company has never hired an international employee before, it's much less likely that they'll make the effort to do so now. And you yourself may actually find it uncomfortable or difficult to fit into an organization where everyone is considered a local. In order to maximize your chances of landing the job you want, let's take a look at a few guidelines to help you source appropriate roles. First up, look for companies that have hired international folks before. You can find their employee lists online or on LinkedIn. You can also check out specific employees from your country or region. What kind of education and work experience do they have, and what does their LinkedIn profile tell you about what appeals to recruiters at the companies they work for? Do they have education at an international school? What level of credentials do they hold? What type of language proficiency is relevant? Do they look like they have global work experience prior to having started at that organization? And if you had to guess, do you think their visa was sponsored? If your company doesn't pass this test, maybe hold off on applying. If you desperately want to consider it, try writing to the HR team, the recruitment team, or even to the person that you found on LinkedIn to understand how open they would be to receiving your candidacy. A quick note about writing to recruiters and HR teams is that it's often the law for them to encourage everyone to apply for a role. If they tell you not to apply, it could be considered discrimination, so advance with care.